Hello, welcome to this first edition of the Bidford Baggies Bulletin with me, Tony, who lives in Bidford-on-Avon in Warwickshire. Hence the Bidford bit, and the Baggies Bulletin I've nicked from somebody else because I think it's quite a good title. But I'll come back to other people's vlogs shortly because you may be thinking, another vlog? How many do we need? Well, there are quite a few out there and they are very, very good, as I found over the past year. But this one is mine, and what I intend to do over the course of the season 2019-2020 is give you my take on what it's like to be a West Bromwich Albion fan, my views on the highs and the lows, and let's face it guys, there's always got to be a few lows with the Baggies. But you may be sat there thinking, first of all, just a second, you don't even sound like you come from the Midlands, let alone the Black Country. What gives you the right to talk about West Bromwich Albion? Well, first of all, you would be right. I don't come from the Midlands originally. I actually come from a big town called Stockport near Manchester. And for many years, I was a Stockport County fan. And we used to go on a Friday night because Stockport would play on a Friday because people would go to either Man United or Man City. So for quite a number of years, I was quite a content and happy Stockport County fan. And then I moved to Sunderland to study. And it gets worse, guys. I became a quite rabid Sunderland fan. And used to go to Roker Park. And, we had some, fantastic Marco Gabbiadini days. This was for those who might remember him. So, but those two clubs will actually conspire to help me become a West Bromwich Albion fan, and I'll explain. Because I then moved to Birmingham, and after I graduated, and basically I didn't have a club, and people used to talk about Aston Villa and Birmingham City, and there was one guy where I worked who was a West Bromwich Albion fan. So I didn't really have a club. But then Dennis Smith became the manager of West Bromwich Albion. So that was the first link, because 10 years before, he'd been the manager of Sunderland. And then what happened was I moved jobs, and I got a job with a little building society in the Midlands called the West Bromwich Building Society, who actually was sponsoring West Brom at the time. So, and the interview on the open night was at the Hawthorns. So I was at the Hawthorns, actually in a private box, being interviewed, looking over a pitch where there was no grass because it had just been dug up because it was the end of the season. So I started work at the West Bromwich Building Society on the 10th of August 1998, and on the 11th of August I was watching West Bromwich Albion beat Brentford in the League Cup, but it was only the first leg. Now, the team I was working in at the time happened to have the private box that evening. So my first experience of watching a West Brom game was in a private box. Now I know what you're thinking, he's got lots of cash, this guy. Well, I haven't, because I don't watch it in a private box anymore. But that first one, I watched it in a private box. Unfortunately, it was a two-legged affair. So we won 2-1 at the Hawthorns. But then when we went to Brentford, they beat us 3-0. C'est la vie. So I soon realised there were the highs and lows of being a Baggies fan. But then the biggest impact happened as to why I became a Baggies fan. And that was Gary Megson joining the club as the manager. And of course, Gary Megson had been the manager of Stockport County a few years before. And he'd been a very, very good manager at Stockport County. So, this was like West Brom in the doldrums at the time. And like Gary Megson got the team by the scruff of the neck and, basically said things that I wanted to hear, like, people need to actually earn the right to wear this shirt. That was the sort of thing I liked. And then what happened at the West Bromwich Building Society was I was getting involved in corporate events and having to go along to the Hawthorns on match day. So for the first couple of years, I never actually paid to see West Bromwich Albion. But if you see the Champions League, and you know they have that lovely silk ball that they put in the centre. Well, what we did, a couple of us, each match, home match, we dragged this. It was like a carpet, and it had a big West Brom advert, and you put it in the centre circle. Well, this thing was not silky. It was so heavy, if it fell on you, it would have killed you. But we dragged it on, but it meant we got in free to watch the matches. And this was the game, this was the season where we actually got to the playoffs. And of course, this was, I'm just looking at my notes, 2001. And we were up 2-0 against Bolton. It's fantastic. Yeah, we're doing fantastic. Unfortunately, Bolton got 2 goals back. It felt like a loss, and of course it was a loss in the end, because in the second leg they beat us, you know, so we didn't go up that season, but we actually went up next season. And by that stage, I was pretty much hooked on the Baggies, you know, so, and then shortly after that, I think they went up to the Premier League, the first time they went up to the Premier League, and then when they came down, I actually managed to be able to afford to buy a season ticket. And so I've had a season ticket at the Hawthorns for about, on and off, about 20 years. There's a couple of years where I've missed, and funnily enough, I missed the last 2 years. Some would say I was very lucky to miss the season where we were getting relegated from the Premier League. But I missed the last 2 years because I was moving house, and as you can see, I'm in this house. So I know what it's like to be a Baggies fan. I do feel I have some qualification to talk about the Baggies. Let me tell you about the worst match that I've ever seen at the Hawthorns, just to show you the pain that I've had to go through. It was 2003, October. It was Wimbledon. If you were there, you'll remember it. Basically, we watched this match, and it was like a training game. Wimbledon were dreadful. They were the worst team in the division. In fact, that season, I think it was the last time they were the Wimbledon, because then became the MK Dons eventually. But they got relegated. They were the worst team. But we just couldn't get the ball in the net. And then basically, right near the end, there one bloody attack on goal. Sorry, I shouldn't swear, should I? Well, one attack on goal, they scored, and it was 1-0 to them. Well, it was awful. It was just dreadful, it was. So that was my worst game. So let me tell you guys and girls, I have suffered through being a West Brom fan. But the highs, when they happen, are just fantastic. I mean, who can forget being there at the Great Escape season, and particularly that game, at the end against Portsmouth. It was just fantastic at the end, and all the rumours going around. And I've seen some lows as well, like when Liverpool relegated us, and then of course in the summer Tony Moby went, who was actually one of my favourite managers, apart from Sir Gary, of course, because he is, there's no one can beat Sir Gary. But I've been for the Pulis years. He wasn't that bad, I suppose. It was just, it was the problem with him. It was only a plan A, wasn't there? There was never any plan B. And let me tell you, I like Pepe Mel. Now, not a lot of people like Pepe Mel, but let me tell you something about Pepe Mel that no one remembers. He kept us in the league that season. We didn't get relegated like everybody expected us to. He kept us in the league. So, it wasn't too bad. And then we had Alan Irvine. Oh no, how awful. That was terrible. And then, of course, we had Uncle Roy. Oh, good old Uncle Roy. But let's get a few things clear here. There's a few rose-tinted spectacles about Roy Hodgson. He played better away from home, but some of the performances at home were awful. And in fact, I do remember the England team were looking for a manager, and we were all basically saying, Roy, if you want to go early, you can do it. A lot of us were thinking that. So, You know, there's a couple of little rose-tinted spectacles about Roy, but he is still Uncle Roy, so we'll let him off. So I think there I've given you, through lots of different things, a way of explaining to you why I do feel I'm a little bit qualified to be a West Bromwich Albion fan. You know, I'm not there sort of from birth, so I'll never be quite up there with some of these other people. But I do feel over the past 20 years I've suffered with the best of them, but I've also had the highs and the joys of being a West Bromwich Albion fan, and that is what I hope to share with you over the next season. This is an introductory video, so it won't be, the other videos won't be as long, but you might get the odd rant from me, because if West Brom don't play well, I'll let you know about it. So I did mention about some of the vlogs that I've watched over the past year, which I've really enjoyed, and I wanted to give a shout out to 3 in particular, and I'm sure there are many more, but what I want to get across to you is that I am not a sort of technical football fan. So if you wanted me to say to you who I think should play left back and right back, and we should be doing the Christmas tree formation, and we should do 4-4-2, forget that. That's not me. I have a very simple philosophy about football. Does the ball go in the net that I want it to go into more times than it goes into the net I don't want it to go into? And is there some pretty football along the way? And hopefully a couple of decent saves from my own keeper. That's pretty much where I'm coming from. So if you're wanting any technical talk, you've come to the wrong place. But don't switch off. Please stay put with me. Now, as I mentioned, there are 3 particular vlogs that I watch, particularly last season, that actually inspired me to buy a season ticket this season. So I will actually be going along to the Hawthorns this season. But these 3 guys really helped. The first one is West Brom Fan TV. I'm sure most of you will have heard of that one. That's run by Connor and Dave, and they really do a fantastic job, not just at the game vlogging, but also away from the game doing previews, and also transfer bulletins and things like that. So they're very, very good. So check them out. I will put a link, hopefully, if I can remember, to their channels in the comments below this video. The next one is WBAvlogs, and that's run by Warren. And I don't know how long he's been doing it for, but he does a good job. And he manages to also do some videoing of the games at the match. So sometimes it's just that. Other times he will give an introduction, or at the end he'll say how he feels about the game. But definitely worth listening to. And the third one that I've been watching is one called Baggies Bulletin, and that's run by Toby. I think he started it this year, but it's been very good, and he's a bit of character about him, in that he really does, you know, there's a bit of charisma, I think, and tells it as it is, basically, which I quite like. And recently had his younger brother on the channel with him, obviously his younger brother is absolute dyed-in-the-wool, you know, Baggies fan, so it's quite cute to sort of see how much he loves the Baggies. So those are the 3 vlogs that I've been watching, and in a lot of ways they've inspired me to give it a go. I'm never going to be anywhere near as good as they are, but at least with me you'll just get my views on how I think the Baggies are doing, and also what it's like being a Baggies fan. So I haven't spoken yet about Nottingham Forest, which of course we play tomorrow. Now I actually am a realist as a Baggies fan. Sometimes I have my head in the clouds, but I'm a realist. I think we're going to draw tomorrow. I'd love us to win, don't get me wrong. Absolutely fantastic if we won. I just think the team still needs to gel. I think it's going to be a very partisan crowd there. I mean, we are, although having said that, we are taking, a sellout crowd ourselves. But I'd be happy with a draw. Obviously, we'd love the win. As regards to Bilic, I'm actually quite excited about this season. I think he's the man who is going to get West Brom back into the Premier League. I wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago because I was a bit worried we seemed to be just selling everybody. But we've had some shrewd buys in the past couple of weeks, and there seems to be a vibe about Bilic. And yeah, I think he's going to be the man. I don't think we'll finish top, but I'd like us to finish second if possible. I don't really want us to be in the playoffs. I mean, I was there just to prove my Baggies credentials. I was there when we lost to Derby in 2007. And that wasn't a nice place to be. Funny story about that was, at the end of the game, I was waiting for West Brom to get their medals until my mate told me they don't get nothing, not even the bus fare home. They've lost the game, they get nothing. Derby got the plaudits and we got nothing. But having said that, the next season they had a dreadful campaign where we, in the end, won promotion and were champions. So hey, sometimes good things come to those who wait. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting season. People are saying possibly Fulham may finish top. I don't know. All I know is I think we're going to be in the mix, guys, definitely. So that's it. I'm not going to say any more. This has been a bit of a longer video because I've been a bit of an introduction. I'll try and keep the others a little bit shorter if possible. But I really appreciate you, taking the time to listen if you have. If you like what you see, please like, comment and subscribe. If you are going to comment, that's fine, but please don't troll me. Not for my first video. Okay? But listen, it's been lovely to speak to you all. Up the Baggies, boing boing, and let's face it, nothing's better than having the football season back. You take care, bye.